Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are LA.
It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Prime Ticket presents the Dodgers as they take on the Washington Nationals. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. The Washington Nationals get the news Atlanta lost today to Arizona. That means a Washington victory tonight. They'd be in flat-footed tie for first place in the National League East. For the Dodgers, they're spurred on the return of Zach Greinke, who picked up a victory early in April against Pittsburgh and then was injured, remember, in the game in San Diego. A couple of notes on the ball clubs. For the Dodgers, they're 5-7 against a left-handed starter, and Ross Detweiler won the rubber game against the Dodgers in Washington. But the Dodgers have not lost the rubber game to Washington here in Dodger Stadium since 2005. For the good Washington Ball Club, they haven't really had their standard lineup since April the 14th, but they might leave here tied for first. We'll get to the ball game. We'll find out about Zach Greinke and a whole lot more right after this. On Prime Ticket is brought to you by your Southern California Hyundai dealers. Come in and test drive the sleek, stylish Sonata today. By AT&T UVerse TV. Check availability at 1-800-PIC-ATT. And by Jack in the Box. The Chipotle Chicken Club Combo is back for a limited time.
We're glad you're watching Dodger baseball and Dodger weather. Beautiful temperature, a cool 72 degrees and clear. With Steve Lyons, Chris Myers from the outfield here at Dodger Stadium, getting ready and excited about that first pitch because Zach Greinke is back for the first time since April 11th. And a transaction made. Josh Beckett, who pitched on Monday night because of a groin injury on his birthday, today his 33rd birthday, he goes on the DL, so the 29-year-old Greinke making his third start for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's amazing how things work out in baseball. Obviously, someone was going to have to move, either a DL or a demotion for Greinke to come back on. Beckett goes on the DL. Now, we saw Greinke pitch brilliantly, really, in his first couple starts before he got injured. I think a lot of people out there are wondering, is he healthy enough to pitch? Now, he has been cleared to pitch by the training staff. Stan Conti said that it would have to take a freak accident again for him to get hurt again. It would have to have a serious collision or something else. He is 100% healthy to pitch. He should have no problems at all. Now, the thing that I worry about is his stamina or his command of the strike zone or how sharp he's going to be out there. The fact that he hasn't pitched very often, that could affect the way he goes out there and pitches at the major league level.
Don Mattingly did say he could take a collision. We hope he doesn't have to. But the pitch count, when I asked Mattingly, he said, I'll be watching 80-90 to see where he is, but he expects a lot of strikes.
And I think that's the stamina issue. He didn't walk anybody in this minor league rehab. He's going to be around the plate, or he should be. If he's not, obviously that's a problem. But that would be due to sharpness, not because of the injury.
Zach Greinke is 2-0 in his career against the Washington Nationals. And the Dodgers try to take 2 out of 3 from the Nationals here at Dodger Stadium before hitting the road. Vince Scully with the call of the first pitch on Dodger Baseball. Straight ahead.
Final game of the 3-game series between the Washington Nationals and the Dodgers. Davey Johnson, the reigning manager of the year, for a victory tonight. It would get him tied with the Atlanta Braves, who lost this afternoon to Arizona. And we'll take a look at Davey's lineup. He has not had his regular lineup, the one he wants, since April the 14th. But here's the way they go tonight. Denard Span in center field, Steve Lombardozzi in left, Ryan Zimmerman at third base, Adam LaRoche at first. Ian Desmond, the shortstop, Wilson Ramos, the catcher, Danny Espinosa at second base, Roger Bernardina in right field for the injured Bryce Harper, and the pitcher, the left-hander, Ross Detwiler. Tuning up for the Dodgers, Zach Greinke. Most people, I'm sure, know about Greinke now. The fact that he won his first start against Pittsburgh, involved in a fight in San Diego, was injured, has not pitched since then, and has only had one rehab, and that was at Lake Elsinore with Rancho Cucamonga. So we will see about Greinke. Zach is 6'2", 200-pounder. He looks slimmer than that. From Orlando, Florida. lives in Apopka, Florida, and went to Apopka High School. So Zach Greinke, who at one time won 16 games for the Royals and 16 games for the Brewers, and Zach will be pitching now to Denard Span, then Steve Lombardoza, and Ryan Zimmerman. Span appeared as a pinch hitter last night and popped up. He started the first game and went 2 for 5, scored a run. He had 2 base hits. So Denard, born in Washington, D.C., hitting .275 and ready to start it off. Leading off innings, Span has batted .319, so we'll see how he goes. And for Greinke, of course, his first big league pitch since early in April. And the right-hander delivers. It's a little high, ball 1, 1-0 the count. So Greinke with the battery of A.J. Ellis looks in to get a sign, and we are officially underway. Beautiful evening, 69 degrees. The next pitch in for a strike, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count to Denard Span. Span, a key member of the U.S. junior team in the Pan Am tournament in Cuba. He's been playing baseball a long time. He was a first-round pick for the Twins back in 2002. He takes inside, and the count 2-1. He's big. He's 6 feet 210 and was an all-state wide receiver in high school. So Spanard, fine athlete, started off his career on a sour note. He was hit in the head by a pitch. Drives one in the air to left field. Scott Van Slyke is there, and just like that, 1 away. We'll take a look at the Dodgers with the letter behind Greinke, and it's Gonzalez and Punto, Gordon and Uribe, Van Slyke, Van Kemp, and Ethier, Ellis behind the plate. So 1 away, and Steve Lombardozzi checking in. Coming off the bench, he's been very successful with 5 pinch hits. However, playing every day, hitting just .212. Of course, one of the people they miss is big Jason Worth. And Lombardozzi, who's a chip off the old block, takes ball 1. His dad, a very successful major leaguer who was a star in the World Series game back in 1987. The next one to Steve misses. 2 balls and no strikes. So Zach Greinke, twice a 16-game winner, sorely needed by the Dodgers, and more than putting his toe in the water. I mean, he plans to pitch unless the hitters prevent him from. The pitch is lifted to straightaway center. Matt Kemp has to back up a little bit and puts it away. So 2 down in the first inning, and Ryan Zimmerman coming up. Ryan Zimmerman, a couple of years ago, had 33 home runs. He had a bad shoulder last year, still hit 25. This year hitting .270 with 1 home run, 16 runs batted in. He had 3 hits last night, 3 for 4. He singled to right, to left, and to center. And the first pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. So there are 2 Zimmermans on the field, both of them extremely important. Ryan, the third baseman who plays every day, and the fine, outstanding pitcher, Jordan Zimmerman. Slider away, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Ryan, 6'3" and a good .230. His big year so far, although he figures to have more, was 2009. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way, and he takes off the plate, ball 2. He was an all-star that year. He won his first Gold Glove. He also won his first silver bat. So Ryan back up and waiting. Greinke's 2-1 pitch on the way. Fastball just off the plate. The fastball clocked at 93. So he's behind to Ryan Zimmerman, 3-1. And looking at Greinke's work, Ryan has never faced him before. And the 3-1 pitch to Zimmerman is taken for a strike, and the count runs 3-2. Last 6 games with LaRoche on deck, Ryan Zimmerman is hitting .455. He's had 10 hits in those games. 3-2 pitch swung on, fouled away, off to the right upstairs. Still 3-2 to Ryan Zimmerman. Ryan's rookie year, 2006, he became only the third rookie in 53 years to hit over 100 RBIs. He had 110. The other two were Mike Piazza and Albert Pujols. 3-2 pitch coming up. Zim hits a ground ball hard, backhanded, drop, recovered, and Punto makes a play. So Zimmerman grounding out 1-2-3. Greinke is welcomed back with a 1-2-3 inning, and we go to the bottom of the first. No score. In order, we can now look at Don Mattingly's card. Dee Gordon opens up at short, Nick Punto at second base, and Matt Kemp back to the more familiar 3 slot after hitting second last night. Then Adrian Gonzalez right behind him, A.J. Ellis the catcher, Andre Ethier in right field, Scott Van Slyke making a start in left for Carl Crawford, Juan Uribe at third, Zach Greinke on the mound. On the mound for Washington, Ross Detweiler. He's a St. Louis boy who lives now in Vieira, Florida, went to Missouri State University. When he was in college, he majored in hospitality and restaurant administration. That is quite a major. So Ross, a left-hander, those who see him say basically he throws only fastballs, but they do all kinds of things, and his fastball is off the plate. Ball 1 to Dee Gordon. He'll throw a fastball that sinks or sails or rises. He'll throw a cutter, but almost always fastball. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Fastball, pull foul, outside of first. Couple of notes on Detweiler as he faces Gordon. Dee hitting .243 with a home run and 4 runs batted in. Detweiler's career, 14-9 at home, 4-16 on the road. A bunt is fouled at the plate by Gordon, and the count 1-2. Another note, if the Dodgers get people on base, do not expect much running. In his career, there have only been 17 stolen bases, 9 caught, and 9 pickoffs. The 1-2 pitch on the way, another bunt. Down to get it is Detweiler. Fires to first just in time. Bang, bang play. Gordon doesn't argue. He just puts both hands on top of his helmet as if he suddenly had a headache. But the out at first called by Chris Conroy. So Detweiler let one fly just in time. And we have one away on the bunt. So the Dodgers fail to get Gordon aboard. Awfully close, and it went to Detweiler. So now with one away, here's Nick Punto. Punto, a switch hitter, batting right-handed, and takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Nick has done a terrific job wherever they played him. So much so he's been a regular in that lineup every day. Strike one pitch is taken low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Couple of notes to cream off the top as far as Detweiler is concerned, with Punto batting .338. There's a breaking ball, one of the few he'll throw in for a strike, and the count 1-2. Detweiler has 5 quality starts. He's allowed only 3 home runs, and he doesn't usually walk people. The 1-2 pitch on the way, swung on, hit in the air to right center. Span moving over and makes the catch, and we have 2 down in the first inning. Take a look at the defensive alignment for Washington. LaRoche, Espinosa, Desmond and Zimmerman, Lombardosi, Span and Bernardina, and Ramos behind the plate. By the way, in looking at the Nationals defense, they are last in the league with 31 errors. The Dodgers aren't too that much better. They're third from last with 28 errors. And the left side of the Washington infield, Ian Desmond and Ryan Zimmerman, lead their respective positions with 7 errors each. First pitch now to Matt Kemp is a fastball low. 1 ball and no strikes. The number 3 hitter who has given Detweiler the hardest time, Martin Prado. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. Fastball sliced down the right field line, slicing, ran fair, and bounces up into the stand for a ground rule double. So Matt Kemp continues to get his share of base hits. He had 1 last night. He is now hit safely in 13. I think it's 14 straight now with a double to right. And with 2 out, Adrian Gonzalez coming up. So ground rule double for Matt Kemp. Finish the thought on the number 3 hitter hurting him the most. The number 3 hitters are batting .550 against Detweiler, and then Kemp promptly doubles. Pitch is low, 1 ball and no strikes. In his career, he has always had problems. That number 3 hitter, Martin Prado, is hitting .591 against Detweiler. So the good hitters are all over him, and Kemp has just doubled to right. Ross set at the belt, 6'5" left-hander, comes over the top with a fastball strike, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Adrian Gonzalez, with runners in scoring position, a tower of strength, hitting .452. With runners in scoring position and 2 outs, he's hitting .778. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way. Detweiler deliberate, now back with a pitch inside. 2 balls and 1 strike. Gonzalez with the toughest hit of all. A runner in scoring position and 2 out is .749. So Russ Detweiler in a little bit of trouble. 27-year-old left-hander, 6'5", about 180. And the 2-1 pitch coming up to Adrian Gonzalez. On the hands, muscled into center, base hit. Here comes Kemp to score. So that means Gonzalez, with a runner in scoring position and 2 out, is hitting .800. 8 for 10, and the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead. Gonzalez just hits it into straightaway center after Kemp had doubled to right. So the Dodgers take that 1-0 lead, and now the batter is A.J. Ellis. Dodgers against left-handers this year, 5-7. Detweiler set at the belt, looks over at first, a bluff by Gonzalez, and the fastball is high, ball 1. 1-0 the count. Detweiler working on a right-hand batter with 2 outs. Ross set, Ellis hitting .284, and the 1-0 pitch on the way. Fastball hit to the right side. Espinosa throws him out, and that's it. But Kemp doubles, Gonzalez singles, and the Dodgers are on the board. And at the end of the inning, it's 1-0 Dodgers. singles him home, and we go to the top of the second, 1-0 in favor of the Dodgers. The best strikeout to walk ratio, the top man is Cliff Lee. Right back of him, Roy Halladay, and I mean since 2009. Dan Herron we saw last night, and the number 4 man we're seeing tonight for the Dodgers, Zach Greinke. Dan Herron, who pitched so well last night, and we found out, remember he faced second and third, he struck out Gonzalez, and then pitched to Andre Ethier, who singled in the 2 runs. Meanwhile, the pitch to LaRoche in for a strike. We understand pretty much of a mistake. What they wanted to do with Ethier last night is just not throw a strike. Dan Herron, who throws a very good splitter, had a splitter come up out over the plate, and Ethier whacked it for the single to win the game. Meanwhile, Adam LaRoche with a quick bat hits one foul down the right field line. So for Dan Herron, he went 7 innings, allowed only 2 runs, but it was enough to lose against a pitcher the quality of Clayton Kershaw, who was absolutely magnificent after the first inning last night. LaRoche waiting on the strike 2 pitch all the way to the backstop, sailing over A.J. Ellis' glove. Adam LaRoche, a Gold Glover. He has made some remarkable plays at first base to get the honor. LaRoche had 33 home runs last year. He has 3 so far this year. Greinke, with the right side of the infield loaded up, comes with another fastball high, and the count 2-2. So Juan Uribe is all alone between second and third. Messes Gordon, Punto, and Gonzalez all stacked up on the right side. Greinke comes back, and this one is in there. Strike 3 call. So LaRoche caught looking, and down he goes. 1 out. So Greinke came in right above the knees. LaRoche frozen at the plate. 1 out, and the batter Ian Desmond. Desmond, the shortstop, who might have a bit of a shaky glove, but he also has a good bat, hitting .293 with a half a dozen home runs and 17 runs batted in. Greinke rocks on the rubber, turns, right-handed deals, fastball a little high, 1 ball and no strikes. Desmond from Sarasota, Florida, does very well at night and struggles in the daytime. Right-hand batter with the 1-0 pitch, and he takes low, ball 2. In the daytime, Ian is hitting .217. At night, he's hitting .349. Right-handed all the way out of Sarasota High School, originally signed when they were the Expos of Montreal. The 2-0 pitch on the way to Ian, swung on, lifted to right field. Ethier comes in and over and puts it away. The Greinke has retired 5 in a row, and with 2 down, the catcher Wilson Ramos coming up. Ramos caught last night, went 0 for 3, striking out twice. Hitting .217, he has 2 home runs, 6 runs batted in. Ramos had the scare of a lifetime. He's from Venezuela, and swings, doesn't get it. In November of 2 years ago, you might have read about it, Ramos was kidnapped. 4 armed men went into his home, took Wilson away in an SUV. He had been home with his father and brothers when the men entered the house and just took him away. He hits one in the air to left center. Matt Kemp digging, and that ball's going to the wall. Matt gets it back in. Ramos hustling for 2, and he is in there. So Wilson Ramos doubles up the gap in left center, and the batter will be Danny Espinosa. Just to finish the story on Ramos having been kidnapped, he got a high fastball and muscled it in the alley. The SUV was found the next day, and eventually Venezuela police rescued Ramos for an air operation in a mountainous zone. 3 men were arrested, and Wilson got home safely. So Ramos, a 2-out double, Espinosa trying to pick him up. Danny hitting just 175. It's been a long year for him already. From Santa Ana, 3 home runs, 12 runs batted in. A look by Greinke, back, and a bunt in the air, foul. It's going to land in front of the Dodger dugout. Espinosa, you can understand trying to bunt. He led off last night. Not only went 0 for 4, he struck out 3 times. And in the first game in the series, he went 0 for 5 and struck out twice. So he struck out 5 times in 2 games. You are a little desperate. And so Danny tried to bunt for the hit. 0-1 the count. On deck, Roger Bernardino. Now the strike 1 pitch misses. 1-1 the count. Interesting, you would try to bunt now. I remember we were quoting Davy Johnson. Davy 2 years ago kept saying, I'd like to see him bunt more. I don't know if he wanted to see him bunt then with 2 out and a tying run at second base. Espinosa waiting. The pitch is high. 2-1 to Danny. He's an even 6, 190. Went to Long Beach State University. In fact, he followed Troy Tulowitzki at Long Beach State. He also played with Evan Longoria. Espinosa has been with the Nationals. He came up in 2010. Now the 2-1 pitch. Danny swings. Little fly ball to shallow right. Ethier comes up to make the catch, and they leave the tying run at second base. So no runs, 1 hit, a man left at the end of an inning and a half. 1-0 Dodgers. Looking on, the Dodgers lead 1-0, bottom of the second inning. Possible shutout. We saw it last night behind Kershaw. The Cardinals have 7 shutouts to lead the league. Dodgers have 5 along with Pittsburgh and San Francisco, and Washington has 4. In the bottom of the second inning, Andre Ethier, Scott Van Slyke, and Juan Uribe in that order. Ethier, the hero of last night's game offensively, got that high splitter, single to drive in 2. Andre, 13 runs batted in, takes a look at the first pitch off the plate. 1 ball and no strikes. Ethier, Van Slyke, Uribe. Final game of the 3-game series. Detweiler's fastball is lined into right field, base hit. So Ethier opens up with a crisp single to right, the Dodgers' 3rd hit. and the batter will be Van Slyke. Say be sure to experience the magic at Dodger Stadium Tuesday, May 28th. Dodgers and Angels, and the first 40,000 fans in attendance receive a Magic Johnson themed T-shirt, compliments of State Farm. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. So Scott Van Slyke, Andy's boy, here in the big leagues, looks at a fastball in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Boy, the word we heard about Detweiler is certainly true. They were telling us you'll just about see all fastballs. The only thing, they react differently. Some will cut, some will sail, some will sink, some will rise, but basically fastball after fastball. He goes to first, back easily on the bag. Remember what we told you, they don't run on him. In his career, only 17 successful stolen bases, and only 26 have even tried. Detweiler with an 0-1 count to Van Slyke, and the pitch is low. Meanwhile, watching the ball game, young Bryce Harper, who had a beard when the first game of the series started, crashed into the fence in right field, had to have the beard shaved off, 11 stitches underneath his chin. Thank goodness he's in good shape. It's a shame, however, we couldn't have seen him play the entire series. Fastball is fouled away. 1-2 the count. When you look at the overall batting average against Detweiler, his overall batting average is .296. Right-handers are hitting .291. Left-handers are hitting .310, and yet he came into the game with an earned run average of 2.5. Here's the 1-2 pitch to Scott Van Slyke. That looked like a breaking ball, low and inside. 2-2 the count to Scott Van Slyke. One of the reasons that Detweiler has been a tough pitcher, despite basically fastballs, the batting average with men on base, .218. His 2-2 pitch on the way, fastball high, and he did a pirouette on the mound. He almost hurt himself. The 3-2 the count. Ross Detweiler working on Scott Van Slyke. So a rather awkward follow through. Now the left-hander heaves a big sigh, looks in. Full count. We'll see about Ethier. Detweiler looks at him, staring. Ethier goes late, and the pitch is inside for ball 4. So the base hit by Ethier, followed by the walk, and that'll bring up Juan Uribe. First and second, nobody out in the second inning. For the Dodgers, a feeling of optimism, and I know it's pretty difficult to be optimistic when you're in last place, 6.5 games behind the Giants, but there is a good feeling, especially now that Greinke will be in the starting rotation. And then Mark Ellis is going to play a couple of games in Chattanooga while the Dodgers are on the road. And the pitch to Uribe, a strike. So all of a sudden, if you get Greinke back in the rotation, Mark Ellis playing every day at second base, and he's sitting there with his cap off. And then you get Hanley Ramirez back, and then all of a sudden you're looking at a pretty good ball club. Here's the strike one pitch on the way. Curveball hit down to short. They not only will get one, they'll turn it for 2. And on the play, Ethier goes to third. So that was a big, obvious curveball, and Uribe hits into the double play. 6-4-3. So 2 down, and Zach Greinke coming up. Greinke talking to D. Gordon before he checks in. Zach Greinke was 1 for 4 before he was injured in San Diego. We'll check Detweiler with a runner at third. He does not have a wild pitch. The left-hander ready. 1-0 Dodgers with a chance for another. and the pitch is low, ball one to Zach Greinke. A debate in the press room: if you were managing the Dodgers, would you allow Greinke to swing? After all, he has a rod in the clavicle, the left side of the collarbone. The 1-0 pitch lunged at and missed, and the count 1-1, so that's the answer. So Mattingly watching as Greinke goes after an outside pitch. He really chased it. 1-1 the count. Detweiler set again. Tall left-hander ready. Over the top. Fastball hit into right field. Base hit. Scoring easily is Ethier, and the Dodgers lead 2-0, and welcome back Zach Greinke. So a nice way to return. A line drive single to right and a run batted in. 2-0 Dodgers on 4 hits. You know, this is the so-called rubber game, the final game of a 3-game series. They split the previous 2, so the winner of this game wins the series. It should be noted the Dodgers have not lost a series at Dodger Stadium to the Nationals since 2005. A little roller to Espinosa, the out recorded, and that's that. But a single, a walk, and Greinke single to right gives the Dodgers the run. And at the end of 2, Dodgers 2, Nationals nothing. Leading the Nationals 2-0. The Dodger calendar upcoming tonight. You can see with Washington, the Dodgers leave after the game, fly to Atlanta, and play the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then to Milwaukee. They're home on the 22nd, off on the 23rd, and the St. Louis Cardinals, followed by the Angels in what will be somewhat of a brief series. Remember the 4 games with the Angels as you look at it. The ones on the 27th and 28th are at Dodger Stadium. The games on the 29th and the 30th are down in Anaheim. Otherwise, you make a mistake and think it's a 4-game series here. Okay, we go to the 3rd. 2-0 favor of the Dodgers. Zach Greinke singles in a run after Gonzalez singled in a run. It will be Roger Bernardina, then Ross Detweiler, and Denard Span. Bernardina struggling, hitting just 122. Left-hand batter takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Awfully tough to be hitting 122 anyway, but especially playing instead of Bryce Harper in right field. The strike 1 pitch, Roger takes low. Roger's from Curaçao in the Netherlands, facing Zach Greinke. 1 ball and 1 strike. Greinke ready, comes back, and a ground ball of the hole through into right field for a base hit. That was a tough decision for Adrian Gonzalez to make alongside of Nick Punto, whether to go after that or not. It was just in that shady area. We can take another look at it. Gonzalez, had he kept going, might have had a chance. Punto couldn't make the play. Don Bernardino is very grateful. He has himself a single to right field. Hit number 1 against Greinke. Gonzalez over to talk about holding Bernardino. Bernardino in the minor league stole as many as 40. So he runs very well. It's 2-0 in favor of the Dodgers. 3rd inning. Detweiler shows bunt, gets it down. It's going to be picked up by Uribe and given to Punto. So the sacrifice works. Bernardino to second base with 1 out. And the batter now will be Denard Span, the center fielder. So Detweiler moves his man along. For Detweiler, that would be his 2nd sacrifice of the year. Denard Span, graceful center fielder and hitting .273. Left-hand batter. Span at one time, and of course he's been a pro since he signed with the Twins in 2002. He was a bit of an unorthodox hitter in one respect. He looks at ball 1. At one time in his young career, he had a split grip. His hands would be spread apart on the bat a few inches. He really didn't like it when in the low minors in Double-A they insisted that he put his hands together. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way, and that's hit in the air to left field. Van Slyke hesitates, then comes up and makes the catch. So 2 down. Bernardino holding at second base, and Steve Lombardozzi coming up. Lombardozzi fly to center in the 1st inning. So 2 out, 3rd inning, 2-0 Dodgers. Lombardozzi hitting just .209. Left-hand batter takes ball 1 high, 1-0. Washington Nationals, the team batting average is only .230. The Dodger team batting average .260. Big difference. Dodgers have scored 131 runs, and Washington has actually scored 6 more going into this game. So the Dodgers trying to get in gear. They've had the batting average, they have the on base percentage. Now what they need, hits with runners in scoring position, and they've done it twice tonight. The 1-0 pitch on the way, swung on, foul back, and the count 1-1. You look at a couple of very good players, and Zach Greinke has done exceptionally well against them. The left-hand hitting Jay Bruce hitting 105 against him. The left-hand hitting Josh Hamilton, now over with the Angels, is 1 for 19 against Greinke. The 1-1 pitch inside, ball 2, 2-1. Right-hand hitter Aramis Ramirez is 0 for 9 against him. So Zach Greinke, Dodgers hope he's in form, and so far so good. He's leading 2-0, 3rd inning. Bernardino at second base with 2 out. Lombardozzi has a very important spot in the lineup. 2-1 pitch is swung on, lifted to left field. Van Slyke is right there. Why it's so important? Because he hits in front of Ryan Zimmerman, and he made the 3rd out. At the end of 2.5, 2-0 Dodgers. family out to Dodger Stadium. Memorial Day, May 27. Dodgers and Angels. First 15,000 ticketed kids 14 and under in attendance receive a Clayton Kershaw themed Dodgers Fathead. Compliments of Northrop Grumman. Visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Well, talking about Clayton, after that performance last night, he ranks first in the league in innings, 64 1/3. First in ERA of 1.4. The pitch of the plate in for a strike to Punto. He also second in strikeouts with 67. And the opposition hitting just 175 against him. That makes him second there. Punto, a bunt foul, and he'll have to come back and try it again. 0-2 the count to Nick Punto. So Punto, who likes to bunt, tries it, doesn't work, and comes back with a no-ball, 2-strike count. Dodgers with a golden opportunity to take 2 out of 3 from Washington, and one of the reasons is a Dodger complaint that is certainly on the shoulders of the Nationals. Ground ball, single up the middle. So Nick Punto continues his solid play with a single to center field, and the batter will be Matt Kemp. It has been a refrain about the Dodgers really all season long, and now they're singing it in Washington because the Nationals are 3 for 20 with runners in scoring position in the series. Matt Kemp doubled, a ground rule double. He bounced one into the right field stands in the first inning. 14-game hitting streak, and batting .327 in the streak, .281 for the year. Detweiler looks over at Punto, throws that breaking ball low. Among other things, although I'm sure he doesn't throw it very often, mostly fastballs, as we mentioned, but he does throw what they call a spike curve. Ross Detweiler. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way. Detweiler delivers, fastball, foul back to the screen. 1-1 the count. Matt, I think, is a little annoyed at himself. He really took a rip at that pitch. I think it's a pitch he feels that he normally should hit. Like the fisherman who has one on the hook and it gets away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Matt back up, waiting. Detweiler delivers, fastball low and in to drive him off the plate. 2-1 the count to Matt Kemp. Right-hand hitters coming into the game were hitting .291 against Detweiler. Time at the plate. So Punto at first, a 2-1 count to Matt Kemp. Detweiler ready, back he comes, fastball hit to center, right into the glove of Denard Span. So Kemp 1 for 2 as he lines out to center, and the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian Gonzalez with Kemp at second and 2 out in the first inning continues to hit with runners in scoring position. His base hit to drive in a run. With 2 out, he is 8 for 10. I mean, there isn't much tougher situation. 2 out, runner in scoring position, and he's hitting .800. Adrian waiting. Detweiler delivers low and away. Ball 1. 1-0 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian looks down to Tim Wallach for the moment. Hitless last night. He had a 10-game hitting streak come to an end. Detweiler's next pitch off the plate, and he's behind 2-0. Adrian came into this game third in the league with a .341 batting average. He also came in hitting .383 against left-hand pitching. 2-0 the count. Detweiler ready, delivers, fastball on the hands, pulled to LaRoche. He's down to Desmond. The throw back to first, not in time. Detweiler missing first base and missing the tag as well. Meanwhile, checking Adrian Gonzalez, who went down the line and after going about 30 feet stopped and bent over, and immediately the Dodgers wonder if he's okay. Something isn't quite right as he goes to the bag. So we'll watch it again. Running down the line, he's going to be out, but the tag is missed. But it took him a while to turn around, come back, and get back to first. He has a few words to say to Davey Lopes, and there'll be some words to Detweiler to make sure he's okay as he tried to make the awkward tag on Gonzalez going by. Steve McCatty, the pitching coach, talking to Detweiler, was kind of covering up a smile with his glove. It was a 3-6 force, and then Desmond's throw and the tag and the base missed by Detweiler. A.J. Ellis will be the batter. We can take another look. Detweiler going over, gets the throw on the wrong side, tried to make the tag, but the runner's already gone by. If it's in front of Detweiler, he might have been able to get Gonzalez. And after stretching a couple of times, I think that's what concerned them. They thought he might have hurt himself. And you can see a bit of a grimace on his face. The pitch to A.J. Ellis in for a strike. 2 out, bottom of the third, 2-0 in favor of the Dodgers. Ellis grounded out in the first inning. Next switch to A.J. looked like that little spike curve. 1-1 to count. Wilson Ramos behind the plate. Ross Detweiler looks in to get a sign. Short lead by Adrian. He's not going anywhere. Detweiler looks at him. Now the 1-1 fastball, and that's inside. Ball 2. 2-1. That fastball's at 93. Detweiler kind of squinting into Ramos. Now the 2-1 pitch coming up on the hands, foul back. 2-2. As we mentioned, Detweiler 4-16 on the road and struggling here, down 2-0. Another thing, when hitters swing at his pitches, most of the time they hit the ball. You don't see a lot of swings and misses against Detweiler. Here's the pitch to A.J. breaking ball up, ball 3. 83%. That's how close they figure things. 83% of swings at Detweiler's pitches hit the ball. Ross heaves a little sigh. A.J. waiting. Ethier on deck with 2 out. Gonzalez ready to go. 3-2. There's a one-hopper by Desmond into left field. Stopping at second is Gonzalez, and the Dodgers have their second hit in the inning. So Ellis a single to left. Gonzalez stops at second. Adrian Ethier coming up. Right by Desmond. So the Dodgers now 2 runs and 6 hits. Ian Desmond was so close to gloving the ball, you wonder if he doesn't feel like he might have made the play. The ball just bounced and eluded the glove barely. So Andre with 2 on and 2 out, third inning, 2-0 Dodgers. Detweiler's first pitch is low and away, ball 1. Bit of a breaking ball. Ethier, line drive single to right. Came around to score in the second inning. Ethier batting .261. Gonzalez, a tough man to score on a base hit. And you have Ellis at first. The 1-0 pitch on the way, in at the knuckles. Ball 2. That was a 91-mile-an-hour fastball. Two and out to Andre. Scott Van Slyke on deck. Detweiler at the belt, checks the runners. And now Ethier backs out, so timeout for the moment. In the inning, Punto single, Kemp lined out. Gonzalez hit into a force play. Washington missing a double play, and then Ellis singled. So the 2-0 pitch to Andre Ethier. Detweiler's fastball at the knees for a strike, and the count 2-1. Again, right around 91. Dodgers 2 runs and 6 hits. No runs, 2 hits for Washington. Gonzalez and Ellis out there on the base pads. Detweiler ready in the 2-1 pitch to Ethier. The 6'5" left-hander comes with a pitch inside, a check swing. No swing, says Ted Barrett. So 3-1 the count to Andre Ethier. Dodgers scored 1 in the first, 1 in the second, and trying to add to that. The 3-1 pitch coming up. Detweiler delivers, fastball low and inside, ball 4. So the Dodgers have a chance as they pick up a walk. Bases are loaded, and Scott Van Slyke up there with a chance to perhaps give the Dodgers a somewhat comfortable lead. Van Slyke walked in the second inning. So you have Gonzalez at third, Ellis at second, Ethier at first, and with 2 outs, Scott Van Slyke. Scotty with a home run, 2 RBIs since being called up from Albuquerque. Swings and doesn't get the first one. No balls and 1 strike. Oh, and 1 the count. Van Slyke, big right-hand batter. Detweiler looks into Ramos. Left-hander's next pitch is inside. 1 ball and 1 strike to Scott Van Slyke. Dodgers going out on the road. They're 6-9 on the road, and they'll play in Atlanta and Milwaukee before coming back here to play the Cardinals and the Angels. 1-1 the count, and Van Slyke backing out, so time for the moment. Detweiler with a 1-1 count, and again Scott Van Slyke backs out. Detweiler kind of fussing out there on the mound. 1-1 the count. Left-hander's 1-1 pitch coming up. Fastball down and away. Ball 2, 2-1. Waiting on deck, the number 8 man in the lineup, Juan Uribe. Two nothing Dodgers looking for more. The 2-1 pitch on the way, swung on and missed, and the count 2-2. So 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 3 on. Gonzalez at third, Ellis at second, Ethier at first. Detweiler doing a high wire act here in the first 3 innings. Ross at the belt, and the 2-2 pitch to Scott Van Slyke, taken low, a fastball at 92. So he's gone as far as he can go. The bases loaded, 2 out. The caddy on the phone to the Washington bullpen, and a 3-2 count to Scott Van Slyke, and a long look from Davey Johnson. 3-2 pitch coming up. Left-hander ready, delivers, swung on, speared by Ryan Zimmerman. A line drive that looked like it was heading down the left field line, and Detweiler's bacon was saved by Ryan Zimmerman. Van Slyke drills it, and a leaping one-hand catch by the Washington third baseman. And at the end of 3, 2-0 Dodgers. Top of the fourth inning. Washington trying to chase Atlanta. Atlanta lost today to Arizona. So for the moment, Washington is a half a game back. Then the Phillies 3.5, the Mets 6, and Miami 11. Davy Johnson, a rather interesting man. For instance, you might not know, but it was Davy Johnson who got the last hit that Sandy Koufax ever gave up. That was in the 1966 World Series. In the 1969 World Series, remember the Mets' miracle run? Well, we'll tell you about that in a moment. And the first pitch to Zimmerman, missing ball one. Cleon Jones caught a long fly ball, handling the last chance of the Baltimore Orioles to win the series. It was Davy Johnson who hit the fly ball against Jerry Koosman. The 1-0 pitch in for a strike. 1986, you may remember, the other New York Mets World Series, nailed down by the pitcher who was acquired for Jerry Koosman. That was Jesse Orosco. And the manager of the Mets, Davy Johnson. The 1-1 pitch poked down the right field line, foul. 1-2 the count. The ball boy makes a nice play. And one thing you really probably don't know about Davy Johnson, once upon a time, he was the bat boy for the Washington Senators when they trained in Florida. Davy's from Orlando. That was way back in 1952. 1-2 pitch fouled away. Davy, of course, managed here 1999 and 2000. Meanwhile, Ryan Zimmerman hacking away, grounded out in the first inning for Davy. Ryan hitting .267. Next one in there at the knee. Strike three called. Second strikeout for Greinke. Good late movement of fastball that just seemed to slide back across the plate. So he got LaRoche in the second inning, and now he gets Zimmerman, two of the top hitters in the lineup. LaRoche hitting .211, but he'll be hitting a lot more than that next time the Dodgers see him. Ball one. 1-0 to Adam. Adam LaRoche lives in Fort Scott, Kansas. He hits one down the left field line, slicing foul and out of play. Adam with a lot of power. He had 33 home runs last year. Got his first Gold Glove and also his first silver bat. Dodgers signed his brother Andy 10 years ago. 1-1 to Adam LaRoche. Time. When LaRoche was 14, his dad Dave, who had been a major league pitcher, was pitching coach at Pittsfield, and Adam used to throw batting practice. 2-1 the count to Adam LaRoche. In fact, he showed enough on the mound as a high school player. He was drafted by the Marlins as a pitcher. He declined. A towering fly ball to right center. Kemp going back to the track at the wall, well back in. So Adam LaRoche hits his fourth home run of the year, driving one deep into the seats in center field. And just like that, the Dodger lead is cut in half. The fans get a kick out of the Dodger fan who throws the home run back. For Zach Greinke, he is welcome to the club. That's the first home run that he's allowed this year. And LaRoche got all of it with that big picture swing. All Kemp could do is take a look. So LaRoche hits his fourth. It's 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers. One out in the fourth. And Ian Desmond, the shortstop, takes ball one. One ball and no strikes. 2-0. Desmond with the catcher Wilson Ramos on deck. Ian hitting .291. And he fouls it away. Desmond avoided arbitration with Washington, signed a 1-year deal for this year. Last year, Desmond had 25 home runs. The 2-1 pitch. That's right. He has a half a dozen home runs right now. Ian from Sarasota. I mentioned it last night. I love his mother's name. Her name is Patty Paradise. All right. Fastball just missed. Greinke, if you're interested in his pitch count, has made 52 pitches right now, and he's in the fourth with 1 out. 3-2. Fastball fouled away. Upstairs, club level. Ian Desmond, 27 years old. He won't be 28 till the end of September. He's the fellow who plays so well at night and troubled in the daytime. 3-2 pitch. Swung on, fouled away. Zach Greinke, 54 pitches, and he's allowed 1 run, 3 hits. Adam LaRoche just took him deep into the bleachers. Three balls and 2 strikes. Fastball, high pop fly. Adrian Gonzalez calling all the way and makes the catch. 2 down, and the batter will be Wilson Ramos.
The Nationals catcher, number 40, was Wilson Ramos.
Ramos doubled to the gap in left center in the second inning, though Wilson is 1 for 1. When Ramos broke in with Minnesota, he really broke in. Fouls that back. Came up to Minnesota in 2010. Made his major league debut by going 4 for 5. And the next day he went 3 for 4. He became the first big leaguer to have 7 hits in his first 2 games in 68 years. As they say on Broadway, how'd he come out? He wound up 7 games and he hit .296. 1 ball and 1 strike. Fastball, line drive, base hit. So Ramos is 2 for 2, a double and a single. The batter will be Danny Espinosa. Danny from Santa Ana, and I'm sure he'd give anything to break the drought. Ramos makes it look easy as he comes up with his second hit. So Wilson Ramos standing at first and acting like he doesn't feel well. Let's wait a minute. Leaving the box kind of gingerly and just trotting to first base. So something happened. He might be playing on a bad leg. And it looks like Kurt Suzuki is going to have to run for him and then, of course, do the catching. So Ramos is heading for the clubhouse. Tough break for Wilson. 2 for 2 as Suzuki takes over. And here's Espinosa. Espinosa 0 for 5 in the first game. 0 for 4 the second game. 0 for 9. 0 for 1 tonight. So the boy from Santa Ana is 0 for 10, and you know he's got friends and family here. Ball 1. One ball and no strikes. Meanwhile, Bryce Harper listening to Davy Johnson. Well, let's see. They might need Bryce Harper to do something because he just left the bench to get ready. The 1-0 pitch, big swing and a miss. 1-1 to Danny Espinosa. The 1-1 pitch coming up. 1-2. Espinosa trying desperately to get started. He hit 247 last year, 236 the year before, and he's hitting just 174 now. 1-2. 2-2. Zach Greinke has now made 62 pitches. He's given up 1 run and 4 hits. In the 4th inning, Suzuki running for Ramos. And the 2-2 pitch. Lifted foul off third and out of play. Espinosa a switch hitter, but when you look at Danny's numbers, he hasn't hit from either side. 154 right, 181 left. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Suzuki at first. 2-1 Dodgers in the 4th. Time. Two and 2. Fastball low and away, so he's gone all the way. Tony Tarasco, who went to school at Santa Monica High School in the first base coaching box, reminding Suzuki, who just came into the game, 2 out in the full count. Adrian Gonzalez goes deep and then fakes to the bag at first. 3-2 to Espinosa. Runner goes. It's foul back. So Danny Espinosa with a full count. He's always been stronger, they say, as a right-handed batter. In the minor leagues, he was a better hitter left-handed than right. And he's hurting from either side. Runner goes. 3-2 pitches swung on and missed. So Espinosa going through the pain of what it's like to go blank in a 3-game series. However, the Nationals get a run thanks to Adam LaRoche, and the Dodger lead is 2-1. Dodger Baseball on Prime Ticket is brought to you by your Southern California Kia retailers. Visit mysocalkia.com. By AT&T, rethink possible. And by your SoCal Ram dealers. Visit ramtrucks.com. We're going to the bottom of the fourth inning. 2-1 Dodgers. Two changes for the Nationals. Kurt Suzuki got into the game running for the catcher Wilson Ramos, and Kurt will stay in behind the plate. And on the mound now, in place of Detweiler, is a big right-hander, Craig Stammen. Stammen out of Coldwater, Ohio, and went to the University of Dayton. Comes in with a 2-1 record and a very good ERA of 2.6. So for Detweiler, he goes 3 innings, allows 2 runs and 6 hits. He was really doing a high wire act, in trouble in all 3 innings, and they lift him. They also thought that he might have hurt himself making that awkward attempt at a tag to complete a double play, which didn't work. So Stammen will now be pitching to Juan Uribe, Zach Greinke, and Dee Gordon. Uribe hitting .268. Stammen signed with the Nationals back in 2005. Got a 2-year deal with them. And he's low, ball 1. His fastball may get up to 94, a 4-seamer. He has a fine slider and a change. 1-1 to Uribe. Uribe grounded into a double play in the second inning, 0 for 1. That's going to be nubbed up along. Stammen plenty of time. So Uribe taps it 1 away, and the batter will be Zach Greinke. We also have a moment to check the boards, and we can see Arizona beat Atlanta 5-3. Paul Goldschmidt had 3 doubles, a big first baseman. The Cubs knocked off Colorado behind Samardzija 6-3. Toronto put it to the Giants. Wow, 11-3. So here now is Zach Greinke, 1 out. 4th inning, Dodgers lead 2-1. That's a strike. Greinke is coming off a tough inning. First 3 innings were easy, and then the 4th inning, 29 pitches. At the plate, he singled to right field in the 2nd inning, and that scored Andre Ethier from third base. Oh, and 2. Down he goes. In that Blue Jays 11-3 win over the Giants, Ryan Vogelsong suffered the loss. He's 1-4. More perplexing for Bruce Bochy. Vogelsong's earned run average is over 8. Another couple of pitchers surprisingly stuck on 1 win. Cole Hamill of the Phillies is only 1-6. And of course, right here with the Nationals, Steven Strasburg is 1-5. 2 down. Dee Gordon, 2 ground balls, 0 for 2. Strike. Check swing. One ball and 1 strike to Dee Gordon. Good fastball. 92. 1-2 the count. Pulled foul outside of first down the line. Difference, that pitch was 84. 1-0 1-2 to Gordon. Dodgers lead 2-1. Bottom of the fourth. Fastball. 2-2. If you joined us late, with 2 out in the first inning, Matt Kemp had a ground rule double to right. Adrian Gonzalez singled him home. In the second inning, Zach Greinke singled home Andre Ethier. That's strike 3 call. So Stammen comes in, strikes out 2 in a 1-2-3 inning, and at the end of 4, 2-1 Dodgers. Time now for our Twitter poll. Does a team need a true #1 closer, or can a team possibly win with a closer by committee setup? Tweet #win and then make your selection, closer or committee. Keep tuning in and we'll see the results. Well, we're going to the 5th inning in a tough ball game, 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers. Zach Greinke will be pitching to Roger Bernardina, then Craig Stammen the pitcher, and Denard Span. Bernardina single to right in the 3rd inning. Oh and 1. Interesting, Bernardina is playing right field in place of the injured Bryce Harper. And we saw Davey Johnson talking to Bryce. We saw Harper pull off a windbreaker and go down the steps back to the clubhouse. I'm not sure if he's returned and in full uniform or not, whether Davey told him to get ready. So in the meantime, Bernardina is out there playing for him. For Zach Greinke, in the 5th inning, he's made 68 pitches. And that will do it to Bernardina. That's 4 strikeouts for Greinke. Kind of a cutter, although you don't see it that much on TV, but here looking down at it, there's a little bit of break, like a little cutter to a left-hand hitter. So here's the pitcher, Stammen for a strike. 0-1. One ball and 1 strike. Stammen making his first at bat in his young career. He's 2 for 3 with a run batted in. So we'll see. Fouled away. 2 runs, 6 hits, and no errors for the Dodgers. 1 run, 4 hits, and no errors for Washington. Andre Ethier had the base hit to drive in a run. Gonzalez drove in a run. And there's a fly ball. A trio of Dodgers. Epier has the easiest play. 2 down in the 5th inning. Greinke is making his 3rd start. Kershaw has made 9 starts. So if they were back-to-back in the rotation, that would be 6 starts that Greinke has missed. And 6 games, and let's say he won 4 of 6, that would make a big difference in the standings. So the Dodgers hope he is back, and from what he's doing right now, he certainly is. 1 run, 4 hits. 1-1 to Denard Span. Twice fly to left field. You know, when Span leads off a game, he has a bit of philosophy. He says, when I lead off a game, that at bat doesn't belong to me. That bat is for my teammates. I'm trying to get on base any way I can, and I'm trying to make the pitcher show all of his pitches to my teammates. Well, he flied to left twice, but it is an interesting thought. My first at bat belongs to the team. 3-1 to Denard Span. And a line drive base hit that belongs to him. So Span 1 for 3, representing now the tying run. And the batter will be Steve Lombardozzi. Now Span covers a lot of ground as a center fielder, and it's duly noted he has stolen 5 out of 6. So in this kind of a game, if there is an opening, you have to believe he'll take it. Lombardozzi fly to center, fly to left. He was 0 for 4 last night. That's 0 for 6. He had 1 hit in the first game. He is 1 for 11 in the series. And they're going to watch Span. Span has stolen as many as 26 bases. 2 years ago, he did that for the Twins. And his career, 77% of success. When he stole the 26 bases, that was a great ratio of success and failure. He stole 26 out of 30. All right, AJ's had a chat with Greinke down in the Dodger bullpen. Now that Greinke is going to be making his 80th pitch, the Dodgers are moving around, and J.P. Howell gets up. So with 2 out in the 5th, Dodgers lead 2-1. Check swing foul. Greinke, of course, as the starting pitcher, must go a full 5 innings to merit a decision. And he's gone 4 2/3, and he's made 80 pitches. Only 1 inning, but it took a lot out of him, I'm sure. 4th inning, he made 29 pitches. 1-1. Fastball hit nicely to Punto. And so that's it. Zach Greinke goes 81 pitches, gets out of the 5th inning, and walks off at the end of 5 for him. 2-1. Say spend your summer at the ballpark with the Dodgers 10-game summer plan. Great matchups with the Giants, Red Sox, Cubs, and Yankees. For more information about the Dodgers 10-game summer plan, visit Dodgers.com/mini-plans or give us a call 323-DODGERS. Bottom of the fifth, Punto, Kemp, and then Gonzalez, and that's fouled away. Nick Punto, with 2 strikes on him, is really a big deal. The National League leaders batting with 2 strikes. He's third, hitting .311. Just in front of him, Brandon Phillips. And the number 1 guy, who has not played in quite a while, is the Dodger, Mark Ellis. 1-1 to Nick, hitting .342. 2-1 to count. Craig Stammen picking up for Ross Detweiler. Waiting on deck, Matt Kemp. 2-1. 2-2. Punto with a little 4-game hitting streak. And lifts it to right center, but playable. Span is there. 1 away, and the batter will be Matt Kemp. Say, friends, you know, Fox Sports is proud to partner with Johns Hopkins Medicine, one of this year's Fox Sports support charities. Johns Hopkins is at the forefront of groundbreaking research into autoimmune disorders like multiple sclerosis and lupus. Join us in the fight against autoimmune diseases and donate now by visiting hopkinsmedicine.org/Fox. Matt Kemp doubled, ground rule double in the first inning, scored on a base hit by Gonzalez, lined out to center in the third. Matt now is hit safely in 14 straight, and he has his average up to .279. Kemp against left-hand pitching is hitting .333, so that's really elevated his overall batting average. As you know, he now has over 1,000 base hits in his young career. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-2. Matt in a pretty good groove the last 14 games. Waiting on deck, Adrian Gonzalez. 1-2. Did hold up, no swing. So Matt with a 14-game streak. Adrian Gonzalez had a 10-game streak snapped yesterday. Came right back with an RBI single. Craig Stammen in relief of the starter Ross Detweiler, who might have hurt himself a little bit trying to make an awkward tag and complete a double play. 2-2. Big bouncer foul. Kemp doubled and Gonzalez singled him home. Ethier singled, worked his way around to third, and Greinke singled him home. And Greinke's RBI is the difference in the game. Fastball. 92 in a good spot. Down goes Matt. 3 strikeouts for Craig Stammen. And Adrian Gonzalez has singled and hit into a force play. Below the knees, Matt came up empty. So 2 out in the 5th inning. And Adrian Gonzalez, amazing RBI producer with 2 out. He is 8 for 10. One ball and no strikes. A little roller right at the bag going foul. Gonzalez came into the game hitting .383 against left-handers and probably singled in a run against the left-handed Detweiler. J.P. Howell is up again in the Dodger bullpen. 1-2 the count. Craig Stammen picking up for Ross Detweiler. Zach Greinke has gone 5. Dodgers 2 runs, 6 hits. Washington 1 run, 5 hits. Two and two. J.P. Howell up and down in the pen. Washington will have Zimmerman, LaRoche, and Desmond. LaRoche, a left-hand batter, due up in the 6th inning. Two balls, 2 strikes. Pulled on the ground into right field. So Adrian, a 2-out single. He's 2 for 3. And the batter will be A.J. Ellis. See the location of that pitch. Low, very low. And he was still able to pull it full extension of the arm and ground it into right field. For Adrian Gonzalez with 2 hits tonight, he now has 44 hits. A.J. Ellis grounded out and singled. First ball swinging, 0-1 the count. And a little foul off first, and LaRoche takes care of it. So at the end of 5, 2-1 Dodgers. May the 15th, 1941, in a game that saw the Yankees lose to the Chicago White Sox 13-1. There was a single small murmur of protest, a single by Joe DiMaggio in that overrun game by the White Sox. That was the beginning of Joe's 56-game hitting streak that was finally ended by Cleveland. And with that, let's go back to this one. It's interesting how they are forever talking about records, and this record will never be broken, and it is, and that record will never be broken, and it was. We wonder about Joe D. Anyone who's been involved in a long hitting streak just can't believe anyone could have hit in 56 straight. Little ground ball, Uribe gloves, throws. Nice pick at the end of it. So Zimmerman grounds to third, 1 out in the 6th inning. So Zach Greinke keeps going. He's now made 83 pitches, and the only inning that got him was that 4th inning. And now let's see, with the left-hand hitting LaRoche, and you wondered why J.P. Howell was up in the bullpen. Let's see if Mattingly's going to bring a hook. Yep. Zach Greinke has returned big time. He allowed 1 run, 5 hits. He worked 5 1/3 innings. And what a difference a healthy Zach Greinke will mean to the Dodgers and to their fans. So he's welcome back in the dugout. J.P. Howell will be trotting in, and we'll be right back. Pitches, 5 hits, and 1 earned run allowed, 4 strikeouts. The earned run was the home run by Adam LaRoche, and that's why they have taken him out. LaRoche in his career is 4 for 5 against Greinke. So we'll see about Howell. Big curveball for a strike. 0-1. LaRoche is just 0 for 1 against Howell, so there's nothing to be learned there. But there was a lot to be learned from that 4 for 5 against Greinke. Howell pitched in the Beckett game. Jansen pitched briefly to end the Kershaw game. 2 runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 5 hits for Washington, with 1 out in the 6th inning. On deck, Ian Desmond. Strike. One and 2 the count to Adam LaRoche, who owns a 1,400-acre ranch, and with a sense of humor calls the ranch E3, which in baseball talk means error first baseman. 2 and 2. Adam was born in Orange County, lives in Fort Scott, Kansas. His dad, Dave LaRoche, major league pitcher. 2-2. Meanwhile, Zach Greinke enjoying his evening. LaRoche hits one foul off third down the line, well out of play. Still 2-2 to Adam. 6'3", 205-pounder. He'll be 34 in November. But he is a home run hitter. He's hit 33, he's hit 32, twice he's hit 25. Check swing, and the count goes all the way. 2-1 Dodgers. One out, bases empty, sixth inning. On deck, Ian Desmond. LaRoche 4 home runs. And the breaking ball is missed, gets away at the plate. LaRoche, I think, is going to argue he fouled it. The Dodgers go through the routine of throwing him out at first. And Alfonso Marquez will not buy it. And now here comes Davey. So Davey burns out a little fire. LaRoche strikes out. That'll bring up Ian Desmond. Two to one Dodgers, 2 outs, sixth inning. Howell picks up his first strikeout. Pretty good combination. LaRoche and Desmond, they have 10 home runs between them. Ball one. On deck, the catcher, Kurt Suzuki, finishing up for Wilson Ramos. Two and 0. Dodgers scored in the first inning. Kemp doubled. Gonzalez singled him home. In the second inning, Ethier singled and Greinke singled him home. And then you had the home run by LaRoche. And that's it. So back-to-back pitching duels. Kershaw last night outpitched Herron 2-0. And now 2-1 tonight. In there. 3-1 the count. Howell works from the third base side of the rubber. He was an iron horse for Tampa Bay. 3-2. When he was at Tampa Bay, he was in 252 games. Three and 2 to Desmond, who has flied to right and popped up to first. And the breaking ball is ball 4. So that's the first walk given up by the Dodgers. Greinke did not walk anybody. Kurt Suzuki, the catcher, will pick up as a runner for Ramos. Wilson had a double and a single. And now Mattingly, who brought Howell in to take care of LaRoche, might go back and bring in Guerrier in the Dodger bullpen to go after Suzuki. Don takes the ball. JP goes out. So with 2 out, a runner at first representing the tying run, here comes Guerrier, and we'll be right back. Out Kurt Suzuki coming up against Matt Guerrier. We have the tying run, Desmond at first base, and a reminder about MLB.com at bat. Text at bat to 31826 or visit Dodgers.com. Kurt Suzuki facing Guerrier. Matt 1-1. Desmond at first base representing the tying run. And ball one. Kurt Suzuki is from Maui in the Hawaiian Islands, from Wailuku. He passed up a scholarship to the University of Hawaii to play at Cal State Fullerton. He has 2 home runs, 9 runs batted in. One ball and 1 strike. Suzuki caught the first game of the series, and then Ramos took over last night. One ball and 1 strike. Suzuki was 1 for 5 in the first game. Ian Desmond has stolen 4 out of 5. And hitting behind Suzuki is Danny Espinosa. 1 ball, 1 strike. And a little low, ball 2. So Desmond at first represents the tying run. Dodgers lead 2-1. 2 out, 6th inning. And a 2-1 count to the man from Maui. With a bat in his hands is Bryce Harper. So he did go and change into a uniform. 2-2. Kurt Suzuki, 5'11", 195. He'll be 30 in October. They always like to tease him, are you related to Ichiro? The answer is absolutely not. 2-2 the count to Suzuki. There goes Desmond, and the pitch is hit into center, base hit, and Desmond is flying to third. Wow, did he get there in a hurry. So Suzuki ropes one to center. The tying run is now 90 feet away. And Danny Espinosa, still looking for his first hit, is coming up. So there goes Desmond, and there goes the base hit. Desmond, under a full head of steam, breezed into third. So here's Espinosa. First and third, 2 out. Greinke's 2-1 lead is still there, but barely. Little ground ball, Punto, and Espinosa comes up and goes 0 for 3. Greinke heaves a sigh of relief, and we're heading for the bottom of the 6th inning. Dodgers 2, Washington 1. as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. For the Dodgers, Andre Ethier, then Scott Van Slyke and Juan Uribe. If you've ever tried to play this game and you were unsuccessful, you can understand how Danny Espinosa feels. Espinosa still looking desperately for a base hit in this series. 20 hitters around the major leagues are hitting under 100 with 2 strikes in the count. So Stammen ready, and here is Andre Ethier. Ethier, interestingly enough, and this can be a maddening game, he's hitting .271 against left-hand pitching. That's the good news. The bad news is batting average against right-hand pitching is down to .255, and the slugging percentage is down. Strike, 1-1. Single to right and walk tonight, though Andre is 1 for 1. Two and 1. 2 runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers. They had a run in the first inning and a run in the second inning. Nationals got a run, the home run by Adam LaRoche in the 4th, and that's it. Ethier, Van Slyke, and Uribe. Ground foul. 3-2 the count. And lifted down the left field line, going foul, and well out of play. Andre Ethier singled and walked. His run was knocked in by Zach Greinke, and that's the difference in the game. 3-2. Fastball off the glove of Desmond. Andre will hold on. So Ethier, a line drive single to left. Desmond close but no cigar. And the batter will be Van Slyke. Went off the heel of the glove. Right there. So Ethier, 2 hits and a walk. Dodgers 8 hit in the game. Scott Van Slyke walked, and then last time up came up with 2 out and the bases loaded and hit a bullet, and it was speared by Ryan Zimmerman for the 3rd out. He was that close from driving in a couple, and Zimmerman just took it away from him. Then again, Ryan's a Gold Glove. Ground ball. Here's Desmond. The quick feed, the turn, and like that, double play. The 6-4-3. 2 quick outs in the 6th inning. And Uribe, who has hit into a double play and hit back to the box, coming up. To look ahead in the 7th inning for Washington, they'll have the right fielder Bernardina. Then they will have Craig Stammen's spot. And one thing that Washington does not have, or let's put it another way, has not had, is any good pinch hitting at all. High fly ball to dead center. Span has plenty of room. That's it. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left. And we're heading for the 7th, 2-1 Dodgers. Dodgers scored a run in the first, a run in the second. Now they give the ball to Paco Rodriguez to try to keep Washington quiet. Bernardino will start it off. Dodgers, meanwhile, rearrange the infield. Nick Punto has now moved from second to third. And coming off the bench to take over at second base, Skip Schumacher. So since Uribe made the last out, and the next spot is the pitcher's spot, you figure that Paco will go in Uribe's spot. That way he's out of the way. Schumacher then would lead off bottom of the seventh inning. So Uribe listening to Luis Cruz in the dugout. And Paco ready to work against Bernardina, who was single to right and struck out. Tyler Moore, who played in last night's game and went 0 for 4 and struck out twice, is on deck to bat for Stammen. So Bernardino 1 for 2. Paco is backed up now by Ronald Belisario in the Dodger bullpen. Dodgers poised for the bunt. Punto right at the edge of the grass. So is Gonzalez. The outfield straight away. Scott Van Slyke up a little bit in left field. 0-1. And a bunt, and it spins back foul. Like hitting a good wedge to the green. That's had some bite to it, and it drew back into foul ground. 0-2 to Bernardino. Dodgers 2, Washington 1. Dodgers scored in the first inning and in the second inning, and then Adam LaRoche homered in the fourth, and that's it. Besides LaRoche's home run, Washington has had one man, Desmond, get as far as third. It's been Greinke, Howell, Guerrier, Rodriguez, Detweiler, and Stammen for the Nationals. 0-2. Slider, half swing, down he goes. So Bernardino is fooled. Strikes out a second time. Tyler Moore is now coming up. Tyler Moore struggling, hitting 145. In fact, we mentioned that's the biggest weakness, I guess, right now for Washington. Their pinch hitters are 7 for 49. Good fastball. Tyler Moore out of Brandon, Mississippi. Went to school at Mississippi State. He's 26 years old. And in a hole now. No balls and 2 strikes. Tyler well put together, 6'2", 220. His game is all power and strength. He had back-to-back years in the minor leagues where he had 31 home runs. He's driven in as many as 112 in the minors. Breaking ball just missed. 1-2. So Paco Rodriguez, Steven Rodriguez by name, working on Tyler Moore. Waiting on deck, Denard Span. 2-2. big story for at least 5 1/3 innings, the return of Zach Greinke. He made the most of it. 83 pitches and 1 run. Home run by Adam LaRoche. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Foul back. Paco's certainly well put together. 6'3", 220. Big boy out of Miami who went to the University of Florida. Good fastball up around 93. He has a cutter, slider, and a changeup. 2-2. Fastball way off the plate. 3-2 to Tyler Moore. Denard Span on deck. He's 1 for 3. And got him on the corner. Tyler Moore can't believe it. Walks away. 2 strikeouts for Paco. So Denard Span will be coming up with 2 out and the base is empty. Span twice flied to left and single to center. Center fielder hitting .277. Almost got him. 1 ball and no strikes. On deck, Steve Lombardozzi, who is 0 for 3. 2 out, 7th inning, bases empty, 2-1 Dodgers. Off the plate. Dodgers in 1-run decisions. 1 and 2 at home, 3 and 4 on the road. So 4 and 6 for the year. Washington in 1-run games have won 6 of 9. 2-0. In there. One slight note for Washington. We forgot to give it to you at the moment. When Adam LaRoche hit the home run in the 4th inning, that means they've homered in 69 consecutive series. Three and 1. Span has stolen 5 out of 6. So if he gets aboard, there'll be a rabbit loose. Three and 2. Dodgers have given up 1 walk. It was to Ian Desmond in the 6th inning, and it was surrendered by J.P. Howell. 3 and 2 to Span. Big breaking ball missed. So a 2-out walk to Span will put a little extra pressure on Rodriguez. Steve Lombardozzi has flied to center, flied to left, grounded out, 0 for 3, and now Don Mattingly is heading for the mound. So he left Greinke in favor of Howell in order to have LaRoche taken care of. We'll see if he's going to bring in Kenley Jansen. That's going to be it. And Big Kenley is coming in. A little early, 7th inning. 2-1 Dodgers, and Jansen trying to hold on to the lead. We'll be back. question, does a team need a true #1 closer, or can a team win with a closer by committee? And the closer wins going away 86%. So thanks for participating. The Dodgers bring in Jansen a little early. Normally during the course of the year it's been Belisario in the 7th, Jansen in the 8th, and then Brandon League in the 9th. But it's only the 7th. Steve Lombardozzi will be coming up to bat, and the tying run, Denard Span at first base. Span has stolen 5 out of 6. Lombardozzi is hitting .203. Lombardozzi a switch hitter, so you bring the right-hander and you turn him around. Lombardozzi hitting .273 right and only .182 left. So the Dodgers go to the numbers. In other words, you could say to yourself, well, we'll keep Paco in there and he'll keep a good eye on the runner Denard Spahn, or turn him around and bring in the right-hander, and that's the way they go. There goes Span. The pitch, a strike, and the tag. Oh, what a tag and a great throw. D. Gordon makes the tag. A.J. Ellis throws a strike, and that's that in the 7th inning. Take another look. Watch Gordon's glove right there on the hip, and right on the money was A.J. Ellis. And we're heading to the bottom of the 7th, 2-1 Dodgers. By the headline performance of Zach Greinke in his first game since the middle of April. He goes 5 1/3, allows 5 hits, 1 run, and 4 strikeouts. The run, home run by Adam LaRouche. Matt Kemp now has a 14-game hitting streak. He doubled and scored a run in the first inning. So Tyler Clippard will come in to be the 3rd Washington pitcher. Clippard appeared in the first game in relief of Jordan Zimmerman. We worked the 8th inning. Came in to get 1 batter. The batter was Andre Ethier. So now he'll face Schumacher, then Gordon, and Punto. Schumacher, who just got into the game in a double switch. Clippard's fastball a strike. We're underway. Adrian Gonzalez talking about hitting to Mark McGwire. 0-1 the count. Clippard's out of Lexington, Kentucky. That's a strike. Tyler is 6'3", 200-pounder. His father has pretty much coached him his entire life. And against left-hand hitters, 1 for 21. One and two. Skip Schumacher hitting 186, just getting into the game. That's when they lifted Uribe, moved Punto, and brought in Skip. 1 and 2. 2 and 2. Clippard was originally drafted by the Yankees 10 years ago. Made it to the Yankees in 2007 for all of 6 games. And eventually wound up with the Nationals in 2008. Took a lot off that pitch, and Schumacher way out in front of it. So 1 out, 7th inning, and the leadoff man, D. Gordon. Gordon hit back to the box, grounded out, struck out, 0 for 3. Nick Punto out on deck, 1 for 3. Dodgers 2 runs, 8 hits. Washington 1 run, 6 hits. Pretty good fastball. That was 93. 0-1 the count to D. On 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. The paid attendance 36,721. 36,721. That just missed. 2-1. You know, an interesting point back in the 7th inning when Denard Span was thrown out. Great throw by A.J. Ellis. Great tag by D. Gordon. You know what Jansen's record was in holding on runners in his career? 18 stolen bases, no caught stealing. None. Zip. Nada. Except now Span. It took a great combination. That throw by A.J. Ellis and the quick tag by D. So there he is. First man caught trying to steal against Jansen. 2-2 the count to D. Gordon. Fastball again. Once more at 93. So when the Nationals come up in the 8th inning as Punto waits on deck. In the 8th, it will be Lombardozzi, then Ryan Zimmerman, and Adam LaRoche. Two and two. We ought to take a look in the Washington dugout, see what Bryce Harper is doing. Remember, they sent him back and he got into a baseball uniform. Next time we saw young Bryce, he had a bat in his hands. And we're checking, and he is not in the dugout right now. 2-2. Slap foul. So all those 93-mile-an-hour fastballs, and Gordon is just getting a little of them, fouling it back. Greinke, Howell, Guerrier, Rodriguez, and Jansen, Detweiler, Stammen, and Clippard. Hope foul. Still 2-2. Eight pitches so far in this at bat. 2-2. Got it. He just kept staying with that 93-mile-an-hour fastball and finally put him away. So 2 strikeouts for Clippard, and now Nick Punto. Punto fly to center, single to center, fly to center. So he's 1 for 3. Clippard back-to-back strikeouts. 2 out in the 7th, 2-1 Dodgers. In there, off speed, 0-1. So he dropped from 93 to 82. Tyler basically fastball, curve, and a changeup. One and one. Waiting on deck, Matt Kemp. Matt has doubled, flied out, struck out. One and one. Punto hitting .338. 1 home run, 8 runs batted in. And popped up. Big league pop fly. Ian Desmond. And that's the inning. Nice job by Tyler Clippard. So we're heading to the 8th. 2-1 Dodgers. Eight hits, and the Nationals 1 run, 6 hits. The Dodgers with Greinke, Howell, Guerrier, Rodriguez, and Jansen. And the Nationals with Detweiler, Stammen, and Clippard, who made 18 pitches in the 7th inning. Steve Lombardozzi was left at the plate when Denard Span was cut down trying to steal. Steve 0 for 3. Dodgers pull up both Punto and Gonzalez. The corner set bunt. Outfield fanned out straight away. And ball 1. Lombardozzi in the last 17 games has really cooled off after being red hot in 13 games, which I guess is so it goes. Slicing foul out of play. He was hitting .357 for 13 games. Now he has 4 hits in his last 41 at bats. 1-1. And he hits one into right center. That's going to drop for the base hit. Matt Kemp is up with it. Lombardozzi, a big turn at first. So the tying run is aboard again. It was aboard in the 6th inning, in the 7th inning, and now leading off the 8th inning. Big play was Ryan Zimmerman defensively with the bases loaded and Scott Van Slyke. A leaping one-hand catch. Otherwise, that's down the line and at least 2 runs with a score. Ryan, of course, has beat you many away with the bat, but he's also a Gold Glover. Yuri Perez, who runs exceptionally well, will now take over for Lombardozzi. Perez, an outfielder. So Zimmerman 0 for 3 after going 3 for 4 last night. And ball 1. Matching up Kenley Jansen and Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman is 0 for 5 and he has struck out 4 times against Kenley. Tying run Perez at first, nobody out. On deck, Adam LaRoche. Pitch out, no action. Perez has only been in 4 games, so he's not been involved in a stolen base yet. 2-0 to Ryan Zimmerman. And fouled away. Zimmerman in the first game of the series had 1 hit. He was robbed of a hit by Schumacher and he doubled to right. Then last night he had 3 singles using the entire field. Single to left, single to center, single to right. And tonight he's 0 for 3. Struck out, grounded to second, grounded to third. 2-1. And a little flare. Ethier is going to have trouble. He'll have to play it on a bounce. He's going to throw to third, but it's not in time. A little flare into right field off the bat of Ryan Zimmerman. And Perez goes to third. So first and third and nobody out in the 8th inning. And the batter will be Adam LaRoche, who struck out twice but also homered. Zimmerman just hit it off the end of the bat, and Ethier could not possibly get there to catch it. And Perez just kept on flying and went from first to third as soon as he was sure it dropped in. So first and third, nobody out, and LaRoche at the plate. Whoa. That's, I'll throw it as hard as I can. You swing as hard as you can. 0-1. LaRoche with 13 runs batted in has the tying run 90 feet away and a runner at first. And another foul out of play. 0-2. Adam LaRoche back in the 4th inning against Greinke. It was 2-0 Dodgers, and he unloaded into the center field seat. LaRoche, by the way, in his career against Greinke is 4-4-5, which is why they lifted Greinke with one out in the sixth. They didn't want him to face LaRoche again. So first and third, nobody out. 0-2 the count. After LaRoche, Ian Desmond. Jansen really trying to get something on that pitch. It was 95. Kenley, remember, came in to face Lombardozzi in the seventh, and Span was cut down trying to steal. Two and two the count to Adam LaRoche. Singles by Lombardozzi and Zimmerman, and the Dodgers in trouble. Dodgers did their scoring in the first inning and the second inning, and the biggest play for the Dodgers tonight was Zimmerman's leaping catch of that line drive by Scott Van Slyke. If that goes down the line, they've got a bunch of runs. But it didn't, and they don't. 2-2. And a mile-high fly ball down the line. Van Slyke is there, tagging Perez. The catch. Perez will not come. So LaRoche, a fly ball to left, but not deep enough. The batter now will be Ian Desmond, as a frustrated LaRoche goes back into the dugout. Ian Desmond has flied to right, popped to first, and walked. He has a half a dozen home runs, 17 runs batted in. The Dodger infield wants to make sure who's covering second base, what to do with Perez at third. Desmond, meanwhile, checking with Trent Jarrett, the third base coach. So Kenley Jansen, first and third, one out in the eighth, 2-1 Dodgers. Desmond followed by Suzuki, the catcher. So this is a huge at bat for Desmond. Nothing fancy there. 92-mile-an-hour fastball up and at him. No balls and one strike. One and one. 2 runs, 8 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 8 hits for Washington. 5 Dodger pitchers. Greinke, Howell, Gurrier, Rodriguez, now Jansen. 3 national pitchers, Detweiler, Stammen, and Clippard. One ball and one strike. And ball 2. With a runner at third and an important runner indeed representing the tying run. You look at Kenley Jansen. He does not have a wild pitch. Two balls, one strike. Just inside. Boy, Yuri Perez with a pretty good jump coming down the line from third. He was coming so hard at first you thought he might be trying all the way. Pitch ran inside. 3-1. Fouled away. So 3-2 with one out. You have Ryan Zimmerman over there at first. You have Yuri Perez running for Lombardozzi at third. Kenley Jansen will make the pitch of the night here. He has walked 5 and struck out 28. 3-2. Zimmerman goes. It's out at the plate. The fake by Ellis, and Perez holding at third. Dodgers were worrying about what would happen with Perez if Zimmerman went, so they held on to the ball. And for Desmond striking out, it is really frustrating for Davey Johnson. Washington tonight with runners in scoring position 0 for 6, and in the series they are 3 for 23. So they've certainly had ample opportunity. 2 big outs. The fly ball not deep enough, and the strikeout of Desmond. Suzuki wouldn't have been in the game. Wilson Ramos started, had a double and a single, and had to leave the game. And Suzuki had 1 at bat, and he singled in the 6th inning. And looking at Jansen, has he faced Suzuki? And the answer is no. So 2nd and 3rd, 2 out. Dodgers clinging to a 2-1 lead here in the 8th inning. And a strike. Suzuki came into the game hitting .241. 9 walks, 11 strikeouts. Of course, the big at bat was LaRoche. One ball and 1 strike. That was a good save by A.J. Ellis. That could have been a tied up game. A.J. and that thing came there in a hurry, and he was able to backhand it, and a new ball put in play. Suzuki has been a pretty good hitter in the clutch. With runners in scoring position, he's hitting .368. 2 out, 1 ball and 1 strike. And a fly ball. Ethier is out there under it. Boy, the Dodgers sure escaped that one. 1st and 3rd, nobody out, and Washington comes up empty. And we're heading to the bottom of the 8th, 2-1 Dodgers. 8th inning. Drew Storen coming out of the bullpen to do the pitching for the Nationals. And Yuri Perez, who got into the game as a runner for Lombardozzi, stays in the game in left field. Some huge moments there in the 8th inning. LaRoche fly ball not deep enough to cash in Perez. Desmond striking out. That had to be a killer for Washington. And then Suzuki a fly ball to right field. And remember, for Washington, they know Atlanta lost today. They were looking for a victory to be tied for first place. Instead, they're still on the outside looking in and so close. Matt Kemp will start it off for the Dodgers. Then Adrian Gonzalez. And then A.J. Ellis. And for Washington, when they come up in the 9th inning, it's the bottom of the lineup. Espinosa, Bernardina, and then Storen's spot. So Matt getting ready to face yet another pitcher, the 4th in the game, Drew Storen. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Brandon League begins to loosen up. So Matt ready to check in against the boy from Indianapolis, Drew Storen, who went to Stanford University. 2 runs, 8 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 8 hits for the Nationals. And ball 1. Kemp had a ground rule double in the 1st inning. Came home on a base hit by Gonzalez. He's hit safely in 14 straight. Then he lined out to center and struck out. 1 ball, no strikes. 1-1. Boy, what a rip at a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. The Yankees wanted Storen, but he wanted to go to Stanford. His major at Stanford, mechanical engineering. Ground ball through into left field for a base hit. So Matt Kemp goes 2 for 4 with a single and a double. Came into that at bat, hitting .277. So now let's see about the Dodgers trying to put a run on the board before they go into the 9th inning. Matt Kemp has stolen 5 out of 5. And you have Adrian Gonzalez, A.J. Ellis, and Andre Ethier. Gonzalez 2 for 3, singles to center, 1 run batted in. Ball 1. Dodgers 2 runs, 9 hits. Washington 1 run, 8 hits. Matt held on by LaRoche. Wasn't too long ago, 10 years ago exactly, Storen was the Montreal Expos bat boy. Kemp bluffs. He had everybody jumpy. 2-0 the count. How did the boy from Indianapolis become the bat boy for the Expos? Well, his father had a connection with the Expos trainer. Drew was 16, and he had the chance and the honor. There goes Kemp. Pitch is low, no chance. So Matt has now stolen 6 for 6. So Adrian, who has been absolutely dynamite with runners in scoring position, now has Kemp right there at second base. On deck, A.J. Ellis. The 3-0 pitch. They might let him swing. Off the plate. So the Dodgers now first and second and nobody out after getting off the hook, where Washington had runners at first and third and nobody out in the 8th inning and failed to score. A.J. Ellis checking with Tim Wallach. He's grounded to second, single to left, and fouled out to first. Kemp and Gonzalez out on the lines, and A.J. settling in, batting .286. Showing bunt. And ball one. A.J. Ellis has one sacrifice this year. By showing bunt, he brings up LaRoche and Zimmerman. So Kemp and Gonzalez out on the lines. 1 ball and no strikes. Showing bunt. Got it down to Zimmerman, who throws over to first for the out. So the Dodgers now at second and third, 1 out. Andre Ethier, who ruined the Nationals last night when they pitched to him. And let's see what they do now.
Number 16, Andre Ethier.
Carl Crawford is out on deck. So if Davey Johnson is thinking about walking Ethier, there'll be another left-hand hitter ready. Last night, it wasn't that they were pitching to Ethier, we found out after the fact. Davey wanted just 4 pitches out of the strike zone. But Dan Herron, who can throw a mean splitter, had a splitter up and a little away, and Ethier singled. So what are they going to do with first base open? They're going to walk him tonight. And there'll be no nonsense about just don't give him anything good to hit. So in a moment, Carl Crawford will be coming up with the bases loaded, 1 out in the 8th inning. And the Dodgers trying to add to a 2-1 lead. Crawford has grounded into 1 double play. He's hitting .311. He has 5 home runs, 9 runs batted in. He does not have a sacrifice fly. So we shall see in a moment. 2 runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 8 hits for the Nationals. So Ethier, Gonzalez, and Kemp all out on the bases. And here is Crawford. Crawford, as a pinch hitter, is 1 for 4. Drew Storen has never faced Carl Crawford and vice versa. So Crawford batting for Van Slyke. Kemp at third, Gonzalez at second, Ethier at first. The infield is halfway. And ball 1. Tim Fedorovich is out on deck. He would bat for Jansen. 1 ball and no strikes. Fouled at the plate. 1-1 to Carl. Crawford getting that foul ball on the foot. Originally drafted by the Devil Rays, had a big career with them. then 2 years with the Red Sox, and here he is here. 1 ball and 1 strike. Infield halfway. And a high fly ball. That's plenty deep enough to get Kemp home. The catch will be made by Span. Scoring easily is Kemp. Moving over to third is Gonzalez. So Crawford comes up and picks up the extra run on the sacrifice fly. So the Dodgers get the one thing the Nationals couldn't get. 3-1 Dodgers, and Tim Fedorovich will now be coming up. He will bat in the spot occupied by Jansen and was originally occupied by Uribe. That will also take a little heat off Brandon League, the additional run, making it 3-1. 2 out, first and third. Breaking ball, strike. Fedorovich hitting .083. He has 1 hit. So Crawford does his job, a clutch RBI fly ball. One ball and 1 strike. To repeat for the Nationals, they are due to send up Espinosa, Bernardina, and then Store and Spot. Espinosa without a hit in the series. 1-1. Fastball whacked foul down the line. Oh, was he all over that thing. 1-2 the count to FedEx. One ball and 2 strikes. 2-2. 3 runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 1 run, 8 hits, no errors for Washington. Matt Kemp has scored twice tonight. He has a single and a double. Adam LaRoche hit a home run, but failed to deliver the fly ball that could have tied it up in the 8th inning. Fouled away. Thank goodness for that protective railing. Two and 2. So juice is wild enough. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. Dodgers lead by 2. Little number to the plate. Suzuki's play is the first, and that's it. However, the Dodgers get a huge run on a single stolen base, 2 walks, and Crawford's sacrifice fly. We head to the 9th, 3-1 Dodgers. to you by CarMax. Start the search for your next car at CarMax. By Time Warner. Enjoy all the things you love better. 1-855-ONCE-TWC. And by 76. We're on the driver's side. Dodgers holding on to a lead they've enjoyed ever since they scored in the first inning. Carl Crawford just helped with a scoring fly ball, and the Dodgers take a 3-1 lead into the ninth inning. And Brandon League will take over as the closer. League, who has been struggling, but he has 8 saves in 9 chances, and he'll face Danny Espinosa to start it off. And a strike. For Espinosa from Santa Ana, this has to be an agonizing series. He is 0 for 12. Danny's overall batting average 171. So it's been Greinke, Howell, Guerrier, Rodriguez, Jansen, and League. Greinke still in the running for the win. Detweiler, Stammen, Clippard, and Storen. Detweiler could lose. 1-2 to Espinosa. Two and two. Brandon League from Honolulu. Though he was born in Sacramento, he was raised in the islands. Two balls, 2 strikes. And ball 3. Waiting on deck, Roger Bernardino. 3 balls, 2 strikes. And ground ball up the middle. There it is. Danny Espinosa comes up with his first hit in the series. I'm sure you can almost feel the sigh of relief. So Roger Bernardino will be coming up, and Bryce Harper comes out on deck. So there he is with bandage on the chin. Crashed into the scoreboard when it was 6-0 in favor of Washington in the first game. Haven't seen him until right now. Bernardino is 1 for 3. And a strike. So 3 runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 9 hits for Washington. They are 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Matt Kemp has scored twice. 1-1. Washington 3 for 23 with runners in scoring position during the series. 1-1. 1-2. Two balls and 2 strikes. Brandon League, basically fastball with a lot of movement, curveball, circle change, slider, and then he added a splitter and pretty much dropped the change. 2-2. Check swing. Ball 3. So Espinosa at first. Bernardino goes all the way, and Bryce Harper loosening up on deck. Little roller. League has it. Flips it to Gonzalez. 1 out. Taking second is Espinosa. And here comes Bryce Harper. Will show his injury. Chasing a windblown triple off the bat of A.J. Ellis, and he just crashed face first into the wire screen guarding the scoreboard. Took 11 stitches under the chin. Had a light stream of blood around his neck. Did not play at all yesterday. He was sore, somewhat nauseous. He's a remarkable young player. He's only 20 years old and a world of talent. So Harper batting for Storen. 0-1. No balls, 1 strike. Espinosa at second. One and one to Bryce. Harper is remarkable. We didn't have much time to talk about it as a pinch hitter. But at 20 years old, he hits number 3 in the lineup. And he figures to hit number 3 all year. The only other player that age to hit in that number 3 spot for years, AT LAN, who's in the Hall of Fame. Ground ball. Gonzalez will feed lead coming over. Taking third is Espinosa. So the Dodgers lead by 2. Nationals have a runner at third with 2 out. And here's Denard Span. Denard Span will be the answer perhaps to a trivia question. 18 runners succeeded in stealing second base against Kenley Jansen, and then 1 runner was caught. That runner is Denard Span, who was caught in the 7th inning. And a strike. Brandon League working with a runner at third. Has 2 wild pitches. 0-1 to Span. Hitting .277. And that makes it 0-2. $36,721. I've seen a tough ball game right from the get-go. Oh, 2. Pull foul outside of first. 3 runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 9 hits for Washington. The pitchers of record: Greinke to win and Detweiler to lose. Espinosa at third with 2 out. Oh, 2. And a shot up the middle, but there's Gordon on it, and that will do it. The Dodgers hang on, get out of a serious spot, 8th inning, 1st and 3rd, and nobody out, and then pick up the additional run in the bottom of the 8th and move on to win it 3-1. So the Dodgers win the rubber game, which means they win the series. They have not lost this series to Washington here at Dodger Stadium since 2005. So they're accustomed to beating the Nationals here, and that's what they just did, despite the fact they lost their first game of the series 6-2. And for Washington, of course, they could kick themselves. They had so many opportunities with so many runners in scoring position and couldn't do it. So the Dodgers used 6 pitches, and the big headline is the fact that Zach Greinke came back and pitched very well. Made 83 pitches, worked 5 1/3 innings, and gave up 1 run. Dodgers heading for Atlanta. Stay tuned for Dodgers Live coming up next. Good night, everybody.